Hello, welcome to this week's hashtag Toe to Toe. I'm delighted to say that the guests this week are former Cruiserweight World Champion Enzo Maccarinelli and Andy Clarke. Really good to have you both with us. Enzo, you've battled in today with your bad back.
Lou, stop making people feel sorry for me. Yeah, I herniated disc. It's getting better. I told loads of people on the train about it today, and I was wondering why everyone kept moving, but I thought, I can't take more of this.
Well, you've been a trooper today, hasn't he?
He has, absolutely. Absolutely. Your mistake is that you go to the gym too much. You too, actually. Take a leaf out of my book.
They say it's good for you.
Give it a wide berth, and your back will be in more sound condition.
No, it's good. I said former Cruiserweight World Champion. You've not officially retired.
No, I haven't.
The chapter's not finished.
No, it isn't, but every time I get to a certain level, every time I get to a point where I think, I'm feeling just as good as I was, the body breaks down, something happens, and obviously I've got the herniated disc now. 12 weeks ago, I did my best running time. I had my highest output on a punch bag, and I'd been sparring 20 rounds, only with the boys from the gym, but I was doing 20 rounds a night. I just felt good, felt strong, and then the disc went, and then I've been riding a bike for the last 12 weeks. That's all I can do.
It's something he's talked about, Enzo has, that he wants to reach the magic 50, the number 50. Who would you like to see him take on?
Difficult, because at this stage I don't want to see you going too deep. You've been away for a while, and when somebody wants to keep going, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you keep passing your medicals,
smart,
yeah, and you keep, and the desire is still there, but it just needs to be a suitable opponent. I mean, I know you have boxed in Italy once, but there's Matchroom Italy now. There's some shows going on over there. That might be quite fun for you. Milan, I know that's the part of Italy where
I think Milan, Lombardia, it's not far from my father's home, so that would be ideal. Look, I am sensible, I am fit, I am strong, I'm not as good as I was. I understand that, but I'm still decent enough. I've done a bit of sparring. I won't mention no names, but you would know them. And I felt good, but as for opponent, I think I don't really know. Like you said, I couldn't see the type of person I am. I couldn't see myself fighting a Hungarian road sweeper or a Latvian taxi driver just to get the win the 50th. I'd like a decent fight, a winnable fight, but also a losable fight. One as a good fight where I can leave it all in there and have no regrets. I think a great fight would have been before he retired at light heavy would have been a Fanfara. I think he's well past his best. I'm well past my best, but he's still fit and strong, and I think I would have been a cracker.
Well, you've already answered Max Benson's question, because he actually asked if you could have one fight now, who would it be and against and where? We'll move to Mark Robinson's tweet. He says, best memory moment of your career?
Best memory, winning a world title, 2006 I think it was, Saturday night, Millennium Stadium. Beat Marcelo Dominguez, first man to put him down, first man to knock him out, right uppercut, peach of a shot.
How good did that feel?
It was absolutely amazing, but the thing that made it for me was seeing my dad's reaction at the end. His boy wanted me to achieve a world title. He always told everyone to be a world champion, and to see him show a bit of emotion at the end, which if anyone knew my dad, he didn't show much, but to see his emotion, that made the night special for me.
Andy, looking back on Enzo's career, what's been the standout sort of highlight for you?
I always liked your fight against Wayne Braithwaite, because he was a good fighter, WBC champion, former WBC champion. I'd lost a couple of fights before he boxed you, but against good fighters in Mormec and Guillermo Jones, and then after you beat him, he beat Juan Pablo Hernandez, and that was his only defeat, the Cuban, so that showed that there was still plenty there. What I liked about that fight was that you were always known for coming forward and not really using the boxing skills that you had, because you always wanted to really entertain. Against Braithwaite, you used them more than you had in other fights, and showed everybody that you had some of that in your locker too. And I liked that. I just thought it was a really good performance.
Yeah, I think misconception about me, unless you actually come down and spar me and see me sparring, I don't think people realise how good I am. Not blowing my own trumpet, but I can move, I can box. I'm quite, believe it or not, I'm quite slick. I don't get caught. I use my jab. I got a good boxing brain. But I've always grown up knowing the boxing's an entertainment business. I think it was years and years watching like Barrera, Gatti, probably the wrong type of fighters who want to stay safe in boxing. I just used to love the wars, the blood and guts. And when I used to get in that ring, I see red mist. I knew I had God-given power, and I wanted to entertain. Another downfall of mine was I had no fear. No one scared me. Not a man on this planet scares me. And that's the way I fought. And Braithwaite was the same. I got in there, I was going to knock him out, I was going to be the quickest to stop him, and I was going to put him out there. Then he hit me in the first round on the shoulder with I think it was a left hand, and I remember thinking, whoa, I was like a sledgehammer. From that moment on, it sort of flicked the switch, knew when I had to be cautious, and I just got behind my jab. We did trade off now and again, and ultimately I beat him pretty much every round.
Curtis Barrett says, who's the most skilled fighter that you've been in the ring with?
I've been in the ring with a lot of skilled fighters. There have been some tough boys, some good boxers, but for me it would have been sparring Joe Calzaghe. It just every time we sparred Joe, even though we never flat out, we never tried to kill each other, but it was like you had to be switched on at all times. The only time I thought I might have an easy day is if him and his father start arguing, and then it goes very light then. But most of the time it was very, very good spars, and you had to be switched on. His footwork was immense, his hand speed was immense, and his fitness to keep going for 12, 15 rounds or whatever we sparred at that time was brilliant.
He was a very special fighter, wasn't he?
He was, and you were part of something special with that Calzaghe stable and training under Enzo and down at the gym in Newbridge, yourself, Joe, Nathan Cleverly, Gavin Rees, Gary Lockett, other fighters as well. And you achieved an awful lot, and it's really interesting to kind of look at the way things were done, particularly in the aftermath of Joshua against Ruiz and people questioning whether he needs all these people around him. What do they all do? Marginal gains in sport, is there an argument for getting back to basics? And there was a lot achieved in that gym. And Joe obviously went undefeated, and it was basics. There was Enzo, and that was it.
And you still believe that's how it should be now?
I'm a firm believer in that. Don't get me wrong, I do believe there's a part sports science has to play in boxing, but I believe when you're training to box, you train to fight. You don't train to pick up weights, you don't train to run faster, run quicker, you train into fight. And if you spoke to Enzo, he didn't know nothing about strength conditioning, he didn't know nothing about diet. We used to have a burger van outside the gym, Gavin Rees, cheeseburgers after Joe.
I'm not sure about that.
All of us. But the way we trained, we were never unfit. Ever. We used to do 6-7 mile runs uphill before we even sparred. And the sparring was at 90% effort most of the time. Then you'd have to do pads straight after, and it was just every day. Some days you would train 3 hours, just non-stop training. And what he lacked in the knowledge of sports science, he made up for, and he knew how to get you ready for a fight.
Toughest fight, Fraser Knowles wants to know.
Tougher. I'd say two. The first one was Mark Hobson. Totally underestimated him. Didn't realise about the weight cut then. I was always a light 13.8, the old cruiserweight limit. I remember speaking to my brother at the weigh-in. He said, how's he looking? I said, I'm going to rip him in half. I said, he's skinny, I'm going to rip him in half. He got in the ring, he was like a different person. He was 14, 14.7, 14.8, I'm weighing 13.8. Totally underestimated him. Tough fight. Second tough fight was Marcelo Dominguez. And that's basically for, I've grown up all my life as a kid. I hit people, they go over, they have some sort of pain. I hit him with the best right hand I've ever thrown in my life in the third round. He looked at me, good shot. Then I went to Enzo to chuck a towel in.
All right, as he wants to know, now that Usyk and Gassiev are moving up to heavyweight, as we know, who do you think is the best cruiserweight in the world at the moment?
Well, we got the World Boxing Super Series on Saturday.
Semi-finals, yeah.
Two great fights. Glowacki against Bradis, a good fight, and Dorticus against T2T. I think Bradis is going to just know a bit too much for Glowacki. I think Glowacki loads up a bit too much on the left hand. Doesn't set things up properly, just tries to launch our left hand in. And I think Bradis will just improve on his last performance and box well. T2T, not many people know of. He's slick, he's stylish, he's sort of Mayweather-esque, boxes that hand down, the jab shooting from his hip. Very skillful, very relaxed, got a decent power, versus Dorticus, who is not too typical Cuban. He doesn't point score, he comes to take your head off with every shot. Has God-given power, very explosive, and that is an interesting fight. But I think T2T will know too much. He will make Dorticus fall short. To cut the long story short, I'll go for a T2T Bradis final, and I think T2T beats Bradis in the final.
Andy, who in your opinion right now is the best cruiserweight in the world? Like Enzo said, on Saturday we've got two great fights on paper.
I think I would still go with Bradis on the strength of his semi-final against Usyk, because that's the closest that anybody's pushed Alexander Usyk, and we've seen what he can do.
In Series 1.
In Series 1, yeah, and that was a big performance from him. He was disappointing in his quarter-final, and I thought he was lucky to get the decision, certainly lucky to get it by a couple of the margins that he did. I think he took Nolgivor lightly, he chose him, and I think he took him lightly. So he's going to have to be better against Glavatsky, who will definitely bring it. He always does that. But I like that other one between Dorticus and T2T as well, for the reasons you outlined there. Two good-looking fighters to watch in different kinds of ways, and I was impressed with T2T in his quarter-final, away from home, in Russia, very calm, got the job done. It was a kind of a tournament performance almost. He won and kept something a bit in the tank. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think they're two really
Very much so, yeah.
Two great fights.
Yep, you can see that live on Sky Sports on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. In terms of British prospects coming through, Jez wants to know, how far do you think Lawrence Nicoli can go in the cruiser division?
I think he can go far, but he's got a lot of things he's going to need to work on. I think he's realised that himself. I think he's made the decision.
He's aware of that himself,
I think he's made the decision to go with Shane McGuigan, who I think will get the best out of him. I watched a video clip of him on the pads the other day, and I commented how well he's using his jab now, because before the jab was just a poking out jab, looking for that big right hand. Someone getting close to him, he sort of panicked, he didn't know what to do, he tried and smother, and it got him a lot of criticism. You know, he's not that experienced. I know he's been to the Olympics and things like that, and he picked up a British in combat, but he's still not that experienced. I think Shane will get him to use his jab a bit more and get him to be more comfortable when the fight comes in close. And you know, he's a big man. He shouldn't be fighting in close. But it comes a time where you have to fight in close, and Shane will just bring a little bit out of him.
A good move for Lawrence Nicoli linking up with Shane, do you think?
I think so. Shane, I remember giving an interview not that long ago, and was asked about Lawrence Nicoli, and he was quite complimentary about him. So I could see that there was some admiration there for Lawrence from Shane, and he had a couple of fights with Barry Robinson, Lawrence, after leaving Brian O'Shaughnessy, and I think you could definitely see improvements. But I know Barry takes jobs all over the place, really, short-term contracts with boxers, MMA fighters, so it was kind of hard to see that one really lasting the course. But Shane's based in London, down in Wandsworth. It's easy for Lawrence to get there. He's got some really good fighters in his stable, but not that many of them, so he'll be able to give him a lot of attention, and I'd just be really interested to see what we see. Good
sparring in-house as well with Billum Smith as well.
Absolutely, yeah,
exactly. Be really interested to see what we see when we see Nicoli against Jack Massey on July the 6th, because that's a good fight.
Yeah, that's Manchester. Finally, the people we're all talking about at the moment, Cameron Lewis wants to know, will Anthony Joshua win the rematch against Andy Ruiz Jr.?
If I'm totally honest, I've seen nothing on last Saturday night which makes me think he could win the rematch. I think...
You don't think that was just an off night for AJ?
I think too many people are making too many excuses. I think we've got to give Andy Ruiz credit. I think a lot of people didn't know who Andy Ruiz was. I didn't expect him to win. I did say he was going to cause him a lot more trouble. I didn't expect that. He's got a good amateur pedigree. He got fast hands. He pushed AJ on a back foot from the start, and I don't think AJ is a back foot fighter. I think he sort of panicked a little bit as well. But then he did look good up until that third round. In that third round, he caught Ruiz with a right uppercut, left hook, cracking shot, put him down. I think he thought he was a lot more hurt than he actually was. He went in for the finish. Ruiz was cool, calm, composed. Rolled, come back with his left hook counter. 19-stone man hitting you on top of the head. That has an effect. And he just didn't recover. And you know, from then he gradually got beat up round by round. You know, Ruiz's confidence went sky high, and Joshua's confidence diminished. And I think I've read a lot of stories about Anthony Joshua quitting. He didn't quit. He was concussed. He didn't know where he was. I think if we watch, the ref talk with him just for the end. He's glazing at him. There's nothing behind his eyes. He just didn't know what he is. When I say he can't win the rematch, I'm saying what I've seen on Saturday, I think he needs to change a lot.
He needs to make some adjustments.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's difficult to argue with anything you've just said there, because as people have pointed out, it wasn't like it was one single shot. You soaked up some defeats in your career. Generally, they were you walking onto a big one. And
stupid.
that, yeah, well, yeah, you said it. And mentally, you were strong enough to come back from that. It's probably easier to explain that one to yourself than explain, albeit most of the damage was done with that one punch, than to explain the next 2, 3, 4 rounds.
I think when you watch it, and after the punch, and before the punch anyway, Anthony Joshua was throwing single shots. He was throwing a single jab. Against someone who got faster hands, who throws punches in combinations, that's a nightmare, especially being pushed on the back foot as well. Plus, being pushed on the back foot doesn't work at his pace, hence why he tired out a little bit quicker. I'd like to see just a little drop of muscle mass and work more on boxing and strength.
I think that's the thing. It'll be fascinating to see what changes, adjustments he does make going forward. Thank you very much, guys. Plenty more to talk about on the podcast, which will be available later on today on iTunes. But we shall see you next week.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.